was fun.
Yeah.
That food was really good.
Yeah, it was really good.
You know, I've never been to such a bougie restaurant before,
Yeah.
you know? Like, you're like really bougie. But I like that, you know? It's awesome. We should actually just like go to every restaurant and then just like eat at every nice restaurant in Minneapolis. We go to all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? You're a really great guy. We had really good food together. You're on YouTube, you know, you lift a lot of weights, but there's just not that much chemistry between us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to see you more as a friend.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you're really great. I don't want to call it friend zoning,
No,
but yeah, yeah.
put labels like that on.
No labels.
We're friends first.
Yes.
Like, would I like to embrace you in a manly fashion more often than not? Not necessarily. Like, I'm kind of glad COVID happened so that we can maintain 6 feet apart. You know, the thing about friendship is that it's just clean. It's clean, good fun, you know? Just like when you're kids.
Like, we can talk all the time.
Sorry, I just like... I feel like I just got punched in the chest, so I'm trying to like recover.
I like to keep it honest, you know?
Oh, I know. Honestly, one of the things I've always really like admired about you is just how like honest, just like frank, how cutthroat you are. Mm-hmm. Like, it like sometimes it just feels like a knife, just like coming in and you just twist it around, and I'm like hurting like a lot.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask though, like, why? I gotta say, every time I've been solidly rejected, friend-zoned, I always think there's something wrong with me. I feel like if I did more, like if I was leaner, if I was stronger, if I was richer, this girl at some point would have to be confused about me. That being said, I've recently started rereading this book, The Way of the Superior Man by David Dita, and there was a line in there early on that really resonated with me, something I'm still wrestling with. He says this: in the new world, women are taking the lead. Men, no longer the sole breadwinner or the most purpose-driven member of the household. When a man's value is no longer measured by what he does, his finances, or his social standing, how does he determine his worth? And David Dita argues that in our new world, a man's presence, his depth of awareness, is his most valuable asset. I will say I used to think that my depth, my sense of being attractive, would come from my social standing, would come from my finances. But when I say that women show their true nature to unattractive men, a lot of what makes you unattractive is that depth, that lack of awareness, that lack of like masculine presence. And that's something that you unfortunately cannot like compensate for. It has to be there from a deep source. In this video, I want to cover 2 lesser truths as to why women might show a different side to unattractive men, what even makes them unattractive, and on the other end, 3 greater truths that give you that sense of depth, that make you seem like a more masculine man. And even though this concept of depth is like an ethereal thing, it's hard to pinpoint, when you have it, the way you are received by the world is very different. So without further ado, here's the video. The first lesser truth as to why women might be showing less attraction to you is that you're just not freaking sexy enough, dude. Once again, a rather superficial point, and it should be very obvious. A woman isn't attracted to you because you're just not attractive, like physically attractive. But I would say most men don't know how physically attractive they could truly be. There is obviously a genetic limit on how good we can look, but you might have really solid looks, like a level of attraction that you weren't aware of, that you just aren't tapped into because you're not actualized physically. Do any of you remember when Adam Driver was first blowing up, like in the Star Wars movies, and he first made his appearance as Kylo Ren? A lot of people were like, oh, this guy is like not attractive enough to be like Kylo Ren. He's not conventionally attractive. He looks kind of like a rat. But over the years, I've heard a lot of people, both in like YouTube comments and in real life, talk about just how sexy Adam Driver is. You notice this with a lot of actors who don't have conventional good looks, but they have such a depth of presence that you find them attractive. One of my favorite movies in 2021 was The Last Duel, and I gotta say, I thought Adam Driver had such an insane presence that he sort of put Matt Damon to shame. Like, Matt Damon is also a good-looking guy, arguably has better looking conventional features than Adam Driver, But Adam Driver had this like mystery in his eyes and this presence that just like was very gripping. The things that maximize your physical sexiness are actually largely driven by the things you chase, the purpose you chase. For instance, I've been talking about this a lot in the last 4 months, but I've been pursuing a sub 6-minute mile. After coming off a 6-month winter bulk in which I'd just been deadlifting like a madman, I wanted to see if I could train for speed, if I could get faster, if I could be just more agile, because I want a well-rounded athleticism. And I sort of didn't believe in the training because I've always been just so slow. Like, I've never been good at running. And I got this coach, I started doing sprints, a little bit of, aerobic base building, running 2 miles at a time, then 3 miles. I just started stacking up the miles and joined this running club. I started getting a little bit faster. Like, not by much, my mile went from around 9 minutes down to 8 minutes. I remember one day I got like 7:36 on the mile. I ran it on an indoor dome and I was shocked that I could even get sub 8 minutes on the mile. This last week, I finally hit it. I felt like I was sprinting the whole time, but I ran the mile in 5 minutes and 53 seconds.
5:53. We fucking got it.
Whoa. Afterwards, I put up this sort of story, kind of like reflecting on the fact that I never thought I would achieve this sub 6-minute mile. Like, as a younger guy, like, never thought I could be that fast, never thought I could be that athletic. And one of the people who follow me who commented on that story, the last story he had commented on was from this sketch a year ago, where I was basically making fun of like old school Bollywood tropes. I was against a green screen and I was singing at this Bollywood actress of yesteryears. And I just compared the way I appeared, my sense of presence in those two shots after having just ran that sub 6-minute mile, and then from a year ago where I really wasn't an athlete at all. I mean, I would say my level of attractiveness, apologies for blowing all this hot air, but I look like a completely different person in those two stories. Like, you can probably really increase your attractiveness, because if you haven't really tapped into your capacity physically, like your potential physically, your level of fitness, and then just the way you present yourself, like finding clothes that you would feel good in and leveling yourself up truly to a high level physically, where you kind of like look like an actualized physical manifestation of yourself. Dude, the difference in your physical sexiness could be like night and day. And look, once again, I admit this is superficial, but until you maximize this, you will not know how far you can go. The way I look now compared to the way I look a year ago, sometimes I get stares, I get smiles from women, and I like don't smile back because I'm like, why are you looking at me? But it's like completely new territory. And it serves as a reminder to me that this is a lesser truth for sure, but until you maximize your potential with your looks, you won't really know how like warm and friendly women could potentially be to you. The lesser truth number 2, you're not rich enough. And I can sort of like expand this into saying, like, you haven't arrived at a sufficient social standing or career standing. And you know what? I've often been on a date where a girl will tell me, I don't really care about how much money a guy makes, as long as he's, making an okay amount, he can fend for himself. And he's sort of like enjoying his work. He sort of like has a sense of momentum in his life. But I will say, man, the more money you make, it just makes it easier to be confident. Sometimes we can sort of steal confidence from these more superficial aspects of our nature because it just gives you this sense of mental freedom. And on the opposite end of that, those years where I struggled for money, like where you look at the bill on a date and you're like, oh, that's kind of a lot, or like you're sort of just even looking at the price of things on the menu. These subtle cues, they just pick up. And in today's world, we're not necessarily limited by money. Like, if you have access to the internet, you have the tools at play where you can make yourself better. You can learn a new skill. You don't have to look at classified ads to apply for jobs. You can apply for tens, hundreds of jobs that could like be a substantial increase in your salary. There's no reason not to work hard as fuck to get your money up. And these are the two lesser truths. They're super obvious, but I found that as I've leveled up these two things, my appearance, the way I manifest in the world physically, and my money, the world at large has just been more warm and receptive to me. Now, before moving on to the greater truths, I want to take a quick pause here to talk about the sponsor of today's video, which is Magnesium Breakthrough by Bioptimizers. My longest standing partner has been Magnesium Breakthrough. It's a magnesium supplement with 7 different kinds of magnesium to maximize absorption. The folks at Bioptimizers have recently reformulated Magnesium Breakthrough so that it's even more potent, and it's a supplement that really helps me with my sleep. Lately, my sleep latency has been kept to a minimum. Like, I fall asleep within 8 minutes, basically most nights of the week, I wake up feeling super refreshed. Like when I wake up in the mornings now, I'm just so happy because I can just see an entire day in front of me with a ton of energy. I feel like my testosterone levels are at an all-time high, and I just look forward to that day's work. I just look forward to getting a lot done. And I think most supplements are not that important. They represent the minutia of what can move the needle in your life. It's definitely best to prioritize whole, nutritious foods. But magnesium is one of those things that's just hard to get in your diet. A large percentage of the US population is deficient in magnesium. The rare man like Eric Bugenhagen will just like down tons of pumpkin seeds to get enough magnesium in, but most of us, we are deficient in this mineral. And it's very important for testosterone production, it's very important for good sleep, and in that regard, it affects your performance. It affects your performance in the gym and with your life's work. So if you want to check out Magnesium Breakthrough for yourself, I couldn't recommend them enough. You can find them in the link in my description box. That's magnesiumbreakthrough.com/Captain Sinbad. If you use my code SINBAD10 at checkout, you'll get 10% off of your order. Thank you, Bioptimizers, for sponsoring this video. On with the rest of it. Let's talk about the 3 greater truths as to why women might not be showing you the time of day, why you might be reading as unattractive. What we're seeking here is that depth of being that David Dita talked about. And the first one is, you lack edge. This is one of my favorite chapters in the book, and David Dita says, know your real edge and don't fake it. For instance, one example is that we all make money. We're all doing something currently to earn a living. But where do your fears stop you from making a larger contribution to mankind, from earning a higher income, or from earning money in a more creative and enjoyable way? Here's another way to put it. If you were absolutely fearless, if you were not yourself, but rather some video game avatar that you were working with, what would you do with your character? Would you stay in your position? Would you stay in your city? How much more ambitious and dangerous would you be in the pursuit of your ambitions if you weren't attached to yourself at all? Your edge is where you stop short, where you compromise your fullest gift and instead cater to your fears. I felt that I'd been stuck with this edge limitation for a long time. So one of the reasons why I didn't quit my job sooner to become a full-time YouTuber is because I was really craved a sense of security. After being basically not making a lot of money for many years, that sense of security gave me some level of courage creatively to not be so stifled. But at the same time, I had to make enormous sacrifices to make both my day job and what was my creative endeavors work. And I definitely realize now I was hindering myself. Living in the edge or failing to live in the edge, it shows up in so many ways. I'm now trying to combat this kind of inadvertently through the skills I'm building. I've started pilot school this last week, and I remembered that I'm actually very afraid of heights. And these planes, private planes, they look kind of rickety. They don't look like these established behemoths that can keep you up in the air. In fact, if you actually look at the windshield on one of these planes, there's cracks in it and it looks kind of dirty. I'm like, am I really supposed to believe that I'm safe in the skies? My co-pilot and instructor, Cameron, he let me take the reins on my first time flying for just 2 minutes. And just seeing that the tilt was affecting how the plane was moving, it really sent fear into my heart. It really frightened me. And yet when I came out of that, there was definitely this awareness that, man, I have actually let fear stop me way too much in my life. And had I been completely fearless, I think things would have looked dramatically different. So it's something that I'm definitely working on. But that edge, that willing to kind of wrestle with the edge of your limitations, regardless of the lesser truths of how sexy you are or how much money you have, if you've got a solid amount of edge, or what Jack Donovan might have called gameness, that willing to get back in the fight, courage, it is magnetic. Having that energy is magnetic. I realize now I have to completely conquer this fear of heights. I'm gonna have to go skydiving or something, because you should truly be afraid about the fears that are preventing you from even seeing what your potential is. The second greater truth is that your life lacks momentum. Dude, momentum, I realize, is more attractive than money. Chris Williamson, who is a podcaster that I follow, he had put up this Instagram post about how having a cool job or a position with a lot of momentum in it is actually more attractive than making a lot of money. For instance, if a man is a firefighter, he only has to make $60,000 a year compared to the guy who has a boring finance job or something. That guy has to make way more money to be as attractive in a romantic context. And I think this actually carries through with pretty much how your life looks overall. Do you feel your life has a sense of momentum? I personally classify momentum by like having a bunch of stuff I have to do that day that is exciting, that is hard, that is thrilling, that is like a step out in courage that like stretches me a little bit, to feel as if there's not a lot of dead time in my day. I'm not waiting around for things. I would argue my life has a ton of momentum now. And one of the biggest things that I did to start getting more momentum is to reduce the number of things I do in my life that require other people's permission. For instance, at 22, a lot of what I wanted to do required like the permission of other people. If I wanted to get an agent, I couldn't make things happen in my acting career unless someone else kind of moved the needle for me. Now the majority of the things in my life that I pursue, both the relationships I keep, the amount of money I make, one of the benefits of running your own business is that there's no cap on how much money you make, or the creative endeavors I pursue, it all comes down to me. There's no need to wait. Me and my business developer, Vincent, we recently took this course by this YouTuber, Justin C, called How to Make Your First Million on YouTube. And what I got most excited about watching that course was the fact that I was going to book a luxury brand as a client. So we're working on a pitch deck and like gonna make a spec commercial for a luxury brand that I wanna book. I'm not gonna say the exact brand that is my goal to book, but like realizing that this is in my control to pursue all of these things, and I don't really have to wait for anyone to go forth with the things I want to pursue. I think it gives my life a greater sense of momentum and hence attractiveness. Here's a good test for seeing how much momentum you're allowing into your life or how much you might be putting the brakes on it. And that is, how much do you put things off to someday? How many things in your life do you want to do that you're saying, I'll do someday? Once I get my finances in order, once I get this other thing in order, once I figure this thing out, once I can deadlift 500 pounds, then I'll ask out that girl. Like, how much stuff are you saying in your brain that is giving you a reason to wait? One thing that David Data says in the book is that stop hoping for completion in anything. If there's something you want to do, make sure you're doing it as fast as possible. He says this: most men make the error of thinking that one day it will be done. If I work enough, then one day I could rest. Or one day my woman will understand something and she'll stop complaining. Or I'm only doing this now so that one day I can do what I really want to do with my life. The masculine error is to think that someday things are going to be different in some fundamental way. They won't. It never ends. As long as life continues, it's never going to be over. So stop waiting for the good stuff. If there's something you want to get done, dude, do it now. So with this pilot's license thing, I was like, oh, maybe I'll get it one day. And then I realized, like, why exactly am I stopping on the pursuit of certain things? Go for it now. The final principle here is the reason you're unattractive is because your masculine essence doesn't bleed through. And what is the masculine essence? It's kind of hard to define, it's something that's felt. But one really great point in the book that struck me hard, probably is the hardest point, is that you should act as if your father was dead. Imagine that your father has died. Do you feel like part of you is happy that you don't have to live up to his expectations? I feel this very violently, even though my dad is in good health, and I hope he stays that way for many, many years, because my dad is probably the person I admire most in life, because he started off as basically a poor kid without like indoor plumbing and without like consistent electricity in some village in India. And he became like a senior software engineer. He like rose up the ranks in middle America. And he's like really with it, really smart. Unfortunately, he's still smarter than me. Like, even though I like constantly try to show him that I'm like succeeding, like, damn dad, look, we made 30 grand this month or whatever. He's never impressed. And he's the one person that I just instinctively, I have this burden of wanting to impress my father. It might be time for you to metaphorically kill your father. Kill this expectation, this feeling that you have to like live up to whatever expectations there were there for you. You know what? In Indian culture, for a lot of Indian American kids, this is a very hard thing to do because we do what our parents say. And we're made or broken, we're suppressed or compelled by the influence of our fathers. But on the other hand, if you practice being free of their subtle expectations, even if you still feel fearful, limited, unworthy, or burdened by your father's expectations, like telling yourself that you will do, you will bring, and you will what is yours, what is inherent to you, that is at least one example of having a masculine edge. I realize I had been unattractive to women for a good portion of my life, subtly, because I was too much of a people pleaser. I was burdened by the expectations of those I loved. And it is a slow process of building yourself up sufficiently in your own identity to not be held on to the expectations of others, and having so much self-confidence that you say like, this is my path, I forge my own way. You have to chip away at those impediments, those mental struggles to build yourself up in that way. But when you do, you start becoming magnetic. And then you start to realize that the things that you thought other people were seeing limitations in you, it was really just you. You were held back by things that you didn't even know. This whole video started off from a title that I found very funny on someone else's channel. Women show their true nature to unattractive men. But you know what? What makes you unattractive isn't just the lack of sexiness or status or money, but rather allowing that edge to bleed through. And for those of us who use our masculine edge to push forward, to take charge, to take the reins, to us I say, greatness is coming. We'll catch you next time.